There's a lot of talk these days, and rightly so, about Spa being the most demanding circuit on the calendar. And when we say that, we are talking really about some very impressive corners, 3 corners actually. Eau Rouge, the downhill and then uphill plunging left-right hand S-bend with another flick to the left at the top of the hill. Very, very impressive. Pouhon, a very fast downhill left-hander, and then coming back up the hill, the Blanchiment section before braking for the bus stop chicane. However, that's the new circuit. Relatively safe, comparatively safe. I'm just going to slow down and let this car behind pass because I don't want to go too quickly here because I want to take my time on this lovely bit of road. The Spa circuit has an enormously long heritage and history. It goes back to the 1920s, 1930s. And in those days, it was held on the long circuit, on these street public roads. As you can see now, I'm actually on the old circuit now. This is what happens at the top of the hill. The cars currently turn right on the new circuit at Les Combes, but in the old days, they went straight on into this very, very fast section of road. Downhill, as you can see, basically straight here, and we're approaching, after a while, a corner called Burnenville, which was notorious, really. There were so many incidents there, and it was so fast, and it was also slightly banked, well, still is. Right here on the left is about where Stirling Moss had his huge accident in 1960 in the Belgian Grand Prix when the suspension broke on his Lotus 18. You can see here how fast this bit of road is. There's a house here on the right, famous house. The Porsche 917s were doing 165, 170 miles an hour through here. That's about 300 kilometers an hour through here. And then there was no respite. The track kept going faster and faster and faster. We're now entering the exit of that section of road and approaching the Masta Straight, M-A-S-T-A. This was absolutely flat out. And if you consider, let's think about the 1967 Belgian Grand Prix, which was one of the last races to be run for Formula One cars without wings, with the drivers not wearing seat belts even. This was the Masta Straight, and there's a pull-off road to the left there to a new flyover section. But this was the road, this was the racetrack, absolutely flat out, probably doing 200 miles an hour here with no seat belts, open face helmet with goggles. And we still haven't approached it yet. You can see how long they were flat on the throttle. The average speed back then was in the 150 mile an hour range. Back in the early 1960s, it was at 130 miles an hour average, and that included the hairpin bend at La Source. So this was obviously not part of the track back then. This is a little joining road to the motorway on the left there, but we're now back on the old Masta Straight, absolutely flat out. And of course, a lot of the Belgian Grand Prix were held in the rain because this environment, the Ardennes forest here, is very conducive to localized rain and weather. And so the drivers would find it would be dry at the start, and they'd come around here and suddenly there would be rain and the track would be very slippery and treacherous. Still flat out on the Masta Straight. It's hard to believe that, I know, but we are on the old Spa circuit, flat out on the straightaway, as I say, 200 miles an hour, approaching now finally what was known as the Masta Kink. This was a left-right S-bend in the middle of this Masta Straight. It was just like this, trees either side. Very, very dangerous circuit. So many drivers sadly lost their lives here, so many injuries here as well. And here we are approaching the Masta Kink. 1963, famously, Jim Clark's car was jumping out of top gear and he was having to go through this kink in the rain, holding the steering wheel with one hand and the gear lever in gear with the other hand in the Lotus 25. So that's the first part, the left and then the right. This was absolutely flat out, taken flat out by all the drivers. I say all the drivers 71 kilometers an hour were doing that. We're going too fast, they want us to stop. And it was just part of the racetrack. So we're coming down now on this very fast section now towards Stavelot. Again, very, very fast. But before I do that, I'm going to stop and turn around and go back, because there's one thing that you have to do when you visit the Spa circuit every year, as we are now. And we look at the old corners and we look at the Masta Kink, and that is go to the little cafe here and have some French fries, some chips, because they're never better than right here in the Masta Strait, in the Masta Kink. This is a famous little cafe, and I don't eat chip ordinarily, but here I will always make an exception because it's a moment in time when we think about the history of the Belgian Grand Prix and we look at what has transpired here, how many drivers have won and lost here, how many drivers have lost their lives here, how much history there is in this place. It's a time to reflect and to think about the heritage. Without that, we wouldn't have the Belgian Grand Prix, the safety standards that we have today.